Florida has some of the best attractions in the world. World-class beaches, springs, great theme parks, historic cities, wildlife experiences. And then we have the stuff that's on this list. The ones that consistently make people ask, why did we spend our money on that? Now this list comes from a combination of my own personal experience, your comments, and thousands of online reviews, rankings, and recurring complaints from TripAdvisor, Reddit, Facebook groups, and some locals who have really strong opinions. And this is important because this is not a list of overrated attractions. This isn't, maybe you'll like it. These are attractions I just wouldn't recommend because Florida has too many legitimately great things to do to waste time and money on places that are outdated, overpriced, or just really underwhelming. Some of these have nostalgia, some have history, some are just fine, but you deserve better than a thing that takes 18 minutes and costs $38. All right, let's get into it. We are going to start in the Space Coast and head to Cocoa Beach Pier. Now, Florida has like 30 to 40 major public piers. Most of these are long, beautiful fishing piers that stretch over the water with great views. And then there's the Cocoa Beach Pier, which might be the worst of all of them. Now to start, this pier is surprisingly short for an ocean pier. Most of it doesn't really even stretch very far over the water. Most of it is just kind of like over the sand. So the views aren't even that great. They're just kind of fine. The kind of view where you walk up there and go, yep, that's definitely the beach. But the bigger issue, you can't even fish from it, which already puts it behind most piers in Florida. The whole experience here is essentially a bar, a restaurant, a couple of shops that are closed more often than they're open. It's not awful, it's just very, very underwhelming here. You walk to the end, look around and think, that's it? That's what we came here for? Then there's the parking, famously hard to come by on weekends, famously expensive too. Some online reviewers complained about paying $20 to $40 to park here, depending on the season and the events, so you're already spending theme park prices before you even step foot on the boardwalk. But the absolute worst part for me, it's owned and sponsored by Westgate Resorts, one of the most notoriously aggressive timeshare companies in the country. I really do not like timeshare people. I think it's a giant scam. And right at the pier entrance is a Westgate sales booth, complete with employees trying to lure you in like they're casting out bait. So honestly, the only fishing even happening at this pier is Westgate trying to catch new suckers. Now to be clear, Cocoa Beach itself is a great beach. Great place for surfing, a great place for watching rockets taking off from Cape Canaveral. But the pier, not Coco's finest contribution. Titanic, the Artifact Exhibition in Orlando. Now, when you hear Titanic Exhibition, you might imagine drama, scale, immersion, James Cameron. Instead, you're going to get a surprisingly small walkthrough that takes most people like 30 or 45 minutes to walk through it. Now, the artifacts are real and they are interesting, and the recreated grand staircase is pretty cool, but the whole thing feels like the Titanic section of a much bigger museum that somehow costs more than that bigger museum. They also have costumed reenactors who stay in character, which for some visitors adds charm. For others, might be kind of uncomfortable and might make you feel like you're being cornered by a very dedicated high school theater kid. But here's what I think was interesting. The official Titanic Museum over in Belfast, located at the exact shipyard where the Titanic was built, doesn't even include any real artifacts. They consider recovering items from the wreck to be grave robbing. And yet, that museum is breathtaking. It's amazing. We visited there a couple years ago, and I could not recommend it highly enough. It's respectful, educational, emotional, everything a Titanic experience should be. But this Orlando version, it doesn't really feel like it's honoring history. It feels more like someone figured out how to monetize a disaster right in the middle of International Drive. Ripley's Believe It or Not. All Florida locations. If you ask somebody to picture a prototypical tourist trap, there's a really good chance a lot of people are going to mention this place. Ripley's Believe It or Not. Now these places I think are basically mandatory in any cheesy and over-the-top tourist town. Think places like Niagara Falls, Branson, Gatlinburg. So naturally, of course, Florida is going to have 3 of these places. There's one in Orlando, St. Augustine, and Panama City Beach. And the truth is, if you've seen one Ripley's, you've seen them all. Every one of these places is basically a copy and paste clone of the others. Orlando is the sinking building. Now the building looks pretty cool and is eye-catching from the outside, but inside it's the same formula as every other Ripley's. Shrunken heads, optical illusions, random oddities, a portrait of Beyonce made out of bubblegum wrappers or whatever, weird taxidermy, things preserved in jars, all displayed in slightly dim lighting. There's one in Panama City Beach, different city, same museum, but this time in the shape of a gigantic sinking Titanic. But again, nothing shocking or new, mostly the same exhibits as anywhere else. Then there's one in St. Augustine, and this is the first one. This is actually the first Ripley's Believe It or Not museum in the whole chain. And it's housed in Castle Warden, an 1887 Moorish revival mansion that's legitimately historic and allegedly haunted, just like everything else in St. Augustine is. So yeah, the building itself is notable and historic, but the museum inside, still just another Ripley's. If you've been to the one in the Wisconsin Dells, you've been to this one. They're all the same. Next, the Orlando Eye, that giant Ferris wheel on I-4. Now, the Orlando Eye at Icon Park is one of those attractions that looks incredible from far away. You're driving down I-4, you see this massive 400-foot observation wheel glowing like the Las Vegas Strip. And you think, wow, the view from up there must be amazing. And then you actually ride it, and quickly realize the tallest thing you're looking at is the parking garage where you just left your rental car. The wheel is a perfect example of marketing versus reality. It's hyped like the London Eye, sleek, modern, panoramic views, but once you're inside the capsule, the illusion breaks almost immediately. Orlando is flat, Florida is flat. Icon Park is surrounded by mid-rise hotels, chain restaurants, and mini golf courses. The big wow moment usually comes from squinting just hard enough to make out the big ball at Epcot somewhere in the distance. And for this experience, you're paying about $30 per person. The ride lasts about 20 minutes. Not 30, not 45, 20 minutes. Which means you've barely had enough time to say, oh hey, there's Hogwarts at Universal, I think, before you're already descending back to ground level. And reviews online for this thing are brutally consistent. Too short, too expensive, not much to see, should have been 10 bucks. I thought this would be cooler. Now the wheel isn't awful, it's just the epitome of a tourist trap. Big marketing, high price, low payoff. It's the kind of attraction you ride once just to say you did it, and then spend the rest of the day explaining to your friends why it wasn't as cool as it looked from the highway. Now a giant glowing wheel over a scenic location or world-class skyline would be amazing, but this one, it's basically a $30 reminder that Icon Park sits in the flattest, least scenic part of the entire state. Pier Park in Panama City Beach. So Pier Park is heavily marketed as a must-do attraction in Panama City Beach, but in reality, this is just a giant outdoor mall screaming vacation at you. It has the same chain restaurants that every tourist-centric development in America seems to copy and paste. Dick's Last Resort, Margaritaville. Honestly, the only thing that's missing is a Rainforest Cafe around here. You've got a Ron Jon surf shop, a couple escape rooms, some laser tag, a small amusement zone with a Ferris wheel, and stores you've seen in every mall from Sarasota to Cincinnati. Some people might think it's fun, bright lights, candy stores, ice cream cones, but as an adult, it feels like you accidentally spent your beach vacation wandering around an outdoor suburban mall during spring break. Old Town in Kissimmee. So Old Town is marketed like it's this charming must-see slice of retro Americana. Neon lights, classic cars, carnival rides, the whole vintage boardwalk vibe. And on paper, that sounds pretty cool. But in reality, it often feels like Pier Park's Orlando cousin who never quite recovered after the 80s ended. Pizza by the Slice Joint, a magic shop, a couple of t-shirt stores selling identical t-shirts they've been selling for years, and some of those old-timey photo places. Does anybody ever go to those old-timey photo places? I never have. I don't think I've ever met a person who has, but maybe I'm just not hanging with the right crowd. Which kind of makes you think, maybe it's just time they update the nostalgia meter a little bit around here. This might be crazy, but maybe it's time they dump the Happy Days aesthetic and take this place full Gen X, full 1980s. That's the generation that's the most nostalgic these days anyway. Give us something with some personality, DeLoreans, neon grids, synthwave music, an old school arcade so kids today can finally understand the rage of losing at Donkey Kong for the 400th time. They do all that, and this might make it to my best Florida attractions list. And while Old Town does have one genuinely cool feature of the Saturday Night Classic Car Cruise, which is legitimately cool, The rest of the week can feel like a ghost town around here. Some shops are open, some aren't. A lot of the rides feel like they could use a coat of paint, and there's always going to be that one place selling custom airbrushed t-shirts, even though I've never seen anyone wear one of those since the Clinton administration. The Daytona Beach Boardwalk. Now, Daytona Beach itself is, well, of all the beaches in Florida, it is definitely one of those. It has a wide shoreline, big waves, a legendary motorsports history, and one of the most unique beach cultures in Florida. But the boardwalk is where nostalgia goes to die. People show up expecting something vibrant and iconic, like a Florida version of Coney Island, but what you actually get feels like a faded postcard that's been sitting in the glove compartment of a Chevy Camaro since 1991. Now add in the nightly mix of crowds, blasting motorcycle engines, and the general spring break meets NASCAR energy, and the atmosphere is less classic beach fun and more a place that really wants to be great again, but hasn't quite figured out how. It's the kind of place where you can see the bones of what it used to be, but those bones are showing a little too much. Miami Seaquarium. For decades, Miami Seaquarium billed itself as a classic Florida attraction. Dolphins dancing, orcas flipping, beachfront marine magic. But by the end of its run, it became less majestic marine experience and more, how did this place ever pass inspections? And this park finally just closed its doors in October of 2025 after 70 years of operation. But the details and reasons for closure aren't exactly pretty. Inspections found decaying animal habitats, inadequate veterinary care, and deadly incidents, some of which triggered official lease termination notices from Miami-Dade County. One review on TripAdvisor said it felt like half the attractions were closed and at least 70% of the aquariums were empty. And a Yelp commenter wrote, "I would not recommend visiting this aquarium. It seems to be in serious disrepair." Well, the good news is we don't have to visit this aquarium anymore. It is finally closed. And it's one of those times where saying good riddance doesn't really feel mean, it kind of feels necessary. Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in Orlando. Now, this isn't a bad attraction. The wax figures look good, the lighting is solid, the air conditioning is excellent. But the real issue is how small and how short the experience is. You're paying premium Orlando attraction prices for something you can finish in the time it takes to microwave a burrito. It's essentially a high-end selfie studio disguised as a major attraction. You walk from one room to the other, posing with wax versions of celebrities who are either A, surprisingly lifelike, or B, look like they were sculpted from vague memory by someone who had only seen the celebrity once on a talk show or something. And half the fun here is spotting which figures nailed it and which ones look more like a celebrity impersonator. And because it's located in Icon Park, the world capital of upsells, combos, bundle deals, and hey, you're already here, why not add this too kind of thing, you can easily walk in thinking you're paying for a quick fun museum and walk out realizing you just spent $60 to take a picture pretending to high-five Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And if you buy the combo pack with the Sea Life Aquarium and the Ferris wheel, well, congratulations, you just completed the Icon Park trifecta of credit card regret. Now, kids are probably going to love taking photos with the superheroes and pop stars, and adults are probably going to have fun staging silly photos for Instagram. But once you round that last corner and hit the gift shop, it's hard not to think, wait, that was it? That's the whole thing? It's not awful, it's not miserable, it's not terrible. It's just a classic example of a Florida tourist trap that's fine for 20 or 30 minutes, but priced like it's gonna change your life. And there's like 20 of these places around the world, so it's not exactly a once-in-a-lifetime unique kind of place either. And finally, Monkey Jungle in Miami. Now, Monkey Jungle is actually one of the oldest wildlife attractions in Florida. It opened all the way back in 1935, and its famous slogan, "Where humans are caged and monkeys run wild," is one of the all-time great Florida tourism taglines. And when it opened, it really was groundbreaking. Instead of locking the animals in tiny cages, the humans walked through enclosed pathways, while the monkeys roamed free overhead. In the 1930s, that was visionary, but in 2025, maybe not so much. Today, many parts of Monkey Jungle feel old and worn or kind of stuck in the past, like the park hasn't had major upgrades since color TV became a thing. Some visitors often describe the enclosures as dated, the signage as faded, the general atmosphere is more retro animal park than modern wildlife sanctuary, and when the Everglades, Zoo Miami, and Jungle Island all exist nearby with large habitats and modern exhibits, Monkey Jungle ends up feeling like the odd attraction out. The feeding experiences can be fun, especially when the monkeys lower little metal cups to collect snacks like they're running a little tiny simian drive-through window, but even these moments feel kind of tinged with nostalgia rather than awe, like something you remember fondly from a childhood trip, but wouldn't necessarily recommend to someone planning their Miami vacation today. The experience feels a bit short, the grounds feel a bit tired, and the whole thing leans really heavily on old Florida charm in Miami, a region that's evolved way past that. Florida has thousands of amazing things to do, but these just aren't them. And that's okay. Every state has tourist traps, and honestly, half the fun is accidentally finding one. But if you want the best your time and budget can buy, skip these and go somewhere a little bit more worthwhile. And if you've been to any of these, I would love to know. Drop your stories in the comments, tell me what you think of these places, and if I missed one, let me know. And please hit like, please hit subscribe. I've got lots more cool Florida content coming your way, from the state parks to the theme parks. Until the next one, please stay safe out there, and I will see you around the Sunshine State.